them can hang, running with the gang. No need to explain. I pull up and it's they cannot contain me moving through the lane. Every little setback, I step back and then it's none of them can hang, running with the gang. No need to explain. I pull up and it's they cannot contain me moving through the lane. Every little setback, I step back and then it's I gave them nuggets and knowledge. They tried to put nicks in my armor, but I've been mellow since college. Made this vixen a mama.
Welcome back to He's on Fire podcast, our first recorded episode, because unfortunately Easter decided to fall on the very first weekend of the NBA playoffs, which is fine, but unfortunately I had to go on vacation. Life is hard, but here we are. He's on Fire podcast. Everyone, please hit the like button, share this out to everyone as well. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And for audio listeners, we are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Play. So today, we are going to get an outside perspective on this year's Phoenix Suns. I have a very good friend coming on, musician, recording artist Jaylz. He also dabbles a little bit in the graphic design area. He designed the He's on Fire podcast logo, which I've gotten a lot of compliments on, as well as the song that you heard in the intro called Mike Breen, obviously, bang, right? So we're going to get the outside perspective from the one and only Jaylz. What is going on, sir? How are we doing today?
What up, man? How are you?
Doing awesome. Thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So, outsider's perspective of Devin Booker, especially this season. We had texted and messaged kind of here or there over the past year or two about Devin Booker, and you said that you really didn't start paying attention to him until he dropped 70 in Boston his second year in the league, which was 5 years ago now. So talk to me about Devin Booker, what stood out to him, what you saw of him this year, and do you think he's an MVP candidate?
This year he's been unbelievable. He should be an MVP candidate. I think he's the best player on the team, but I think Chris Paul is like the most important player on the team. But Devin Booker, like you said, when he scored 70, like that catches your attention. That's like the third most ever or fourth most ever in a game. But he kind of dropped off after that, like a little bit.
Some would say his team dropped off right with him there, but
right. I was going to say it might have been the Suns dropping, like they just weren't like relevant necessarily for the next like couple years after that. But then I definitely picked him up again in the bubble with that 8-0 and all the game winners and that dirty one over Paul George. That was crazy. And since then, you have to keep your eye on him, like just as a fan of the game.
Yeah.
He's one of the best doing it right now. So,
and he's averaging a career high this year, career high in shooting percentage from 3-point line, career low in turnovers, career low in fouls per game. All those things absolutely matter. And his defense has stepped up. His defense, he's not a one-way player anymore. He's a legitimate two-way player now, if anybody that actually watches him play defense. And for some reason, he picked up the Chris Paul weak side defense, meaning he is so good on the weak side to be able to steal, or at least if the skip pass goes over him, get to his man on the other side. And for anybody watching, we did not plan this. And for anybody listening, I really apologize. You can't see this. I showed up with my Sean Kemp shirt, and Jaylz over here shows up with his Sonics Sean Kemp old school jersey. That was not planned, completely accident. Yeah. I wanted to wear something different than Phoenix Suns for like the first time right now. And I thought, go with a team that's not in the playoffs.
Right.
Jaylz, what was your thought process behind the Sonics?
I mean, I didn't want to wear the wrong team either. So I just went with the one that didn't exist and figured I couldn't get in trouble for that,
Yeah, there we go. Great minds think alike. And that's why we lived together for 2 or 3 years or however long it was. Great memories of going to Burger King at 2:30 in the morning. Let me tell you what.
What were we supposed to?
Across the street, broke college kids, got $3 in our pocket. Let's get 3 rodeo burgers and call it a day.
Rodeo burgers, yeah.
Going back to the Suns real quick. As I said, we lived together for a while, but we lived together during the Nash, Amari, Sean Marion years. I think it was to like 2005, 6, and 7. So kind of around there. It was right before Shaq got to the team.
Yeah.
And you saw a lot of games living together. We played a lot of NBA 2K together during that time. And now you see what the Suns are today.
Mm-hmm.
Comparing the two squads, one, which do you think is a better team? And two, do you think this team has a better chance to go farther in the playoffs and win that championship than the Nash years?
It might largely be nostalgia, but I would say the Nash teams. I think some of those Nash teams were some of the best teams to never win a championship.
It's true.
That being said, I do think this year's team has a better chance than I remember the Nash teams ever having.
They were playing teams like the Spurs and the Pistons way back when.
Right.
I'm kind of I know the East was really weak because LeBron made the finals in 2007 with a really weak East team, but the West was always stacked. You had the Mavericks were the 1 seed one year when they got beat by the I Believe team out of San Francisco, the Warriors. Yeah. So that's who you were fighting with back in the day. Do you think the talent level in the NBA was better back then or is better now? Is that part of your reasoning to thinking that?
I think it's better now, actually. I think your average player is better now than they were back then. But the game's easier than it was back then, so maybe that allows for some of that. I'm not really sure, but I think the bar is set by the people back then, Jordan, whoever, like even Nash and people like that set the bar. There's just more and more college athletes and high school athletes like setting their minds to reaching those goals and getting that good. Like like Jordan Clarkson, you have him coming off the bench, dropping 45, 50 points. Like that didn't used to happen. You know what I mean?
That happened to like Bobby Jackson a few times. And
yeah,
I'm trying to think of anybody else that comes to mind off the bench that could do that. Good point.
But I mean, like Lou Williams has done it a bunch in recent years. Jamal Crawford's always a bucket. I just think the talent or the skill level itself. Like I think LeBron is better at basketball than a lot of people that I would rank higher than him as grades. Like Jordan's a GOAT, but
ooh, let's touch that real quick. Who is your personal GOAT? Now, just for a little perspective on everyone, he is probably the biggest Iverson supporter and fan I've ever seen in my entire life, potentially of any player of anybody that I've ever met, but also a big Kobe fan. I mean, I'm pretty sure you're a big Vince Carter fan and stuff back in the day too. So who is your GOAT? Is it Kobe? Is it Bron? Is it MJ? Is it someone else?
I think Jordan's the GOAT. Just for someone had to do it when he did it, but what he elevated the game so high, like brought it to so many more places than it was at, like just made it a bigger deal, like a must-watch thing. And LeBron didn't have the opportunity to do that because it was already, you know what I mean? But I think LeBron and Kobe were both better at basketball than Michael Jordan. But all factors, like, you know what I mean? Like all things considered, Jordan's the GOAT forever just because of what he did for basketball and what he.
I mean, that and the thing that I'll never get over is I don't know how many times he scored 30 plus points and 6-0 in the finals.
Yeah.
And I always wonder what would it be like if he never retired twice? What would all these records look like? I mean,
and we'll never know.
No, we'll never know. What would it look like if Jordan played today, though, and they didn't have a specific set of rules for Jordan, the Jordan rules, like with the Pistons, you try to throw him down. You try to do that today. That's flagrants left and right. I mean, Jordan could get away with murder today.
Yeah, but they can also play zone now.
Fair point.
You couldn't play zone back then. So you collapse on them. You can come from wherever to double them. You could, it's not the same because you can't just push them down. Like that's obviously the most effective. You can't Lambeer them, but like, there are different things that make it, difficult in other ways. I don't want to say more difficult because I do think it was harder back then. But like, back then you had people just on your team to like rough people up. That's what I mean about the talent level. Like
Enforcers.
Dennis Rodman couldn't shoot. Like he could get to the ball, and he's one of the greatest rebounders ever. But that's almost a skill aside from basketball. Like he's just getting to something and like, getting people out of the way and being aggressive. Anyone would beat him one-on-one. He's a top 75 player of all time. I beat him one-on-one. Like, probably not. But you understand what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
And one-on-one is probably a bad, because he's a good defender. But like in a game of like horse or 21 or like something like that, like he's got no other. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that kind of thing is almost phasing out, except for guys like, I would put Draymond Green for sure in that category. And I'm sure there's a couple other big body bruisers in there, but that's kind of phasing out a little bit. But kind of sticking with the defensive theme a little bit that we got on with zones and whatnot, the Phoenix Suns are so good at the matchup zone now. Whenever the fourth quarter or 5 minutes left goes in, they throw in the matchup zone, much like Pop did in San Antonio, which is where Monty Williams is from, the coaching tree over there. Yeah. And then they just execute so well, but we're able to execute on defense because of Mikal Bridges. I don't know how much you've gotten to see Mikal Bridges this year. Have you been able to see some games? Have any thoughts on Mikal? Should he be DPOY this year?
I like it. I don't know if he should be, but I'm tired of seeing Rudy Gobert get it. He was one of the only wasn't it Bridges that played all 82 games?
Him and Sadiq Bey and two other dudes, but none of them that are in this conversation played all 82.
Pistons guy. Yeah, he's a good. Shaq always calls them the others. He's perfect, for what the Suns are trying to do, especially with, and I think like a lot of that defense, that's where Chris Paul comes in. Like you were talking about, like Devin Booker kind of up in his defensive game 7 years or 6 seasons into becoming a two-way player, and that's really important. So like Chris Paul and that leadership and like the whole culture thing, that's become a big deal the last few years. But yeah, I'd be glad to see Mikal get something. Like those people rarely get rewarded. Like the others, like I know you saw me get hyped last year when Jordan Clarkson got Sixth Man of the Year. You had to go out and find me a jersey. I appreciate that again. But
couldn't believe it.
They rarely get that shine. I mean, I'm a fan of his from the Lakers, but I just kind of followed him, and to see him finally get some shine after watching him like just be coming off the bench, and he might have got a ring in Cleveland. I'm not sure, but they don't get that shine. So to see someone like that comes out and does those little things and work hard and all that, to see them get some sort of recognition is just awesome whenever it happens.
I completely agree. And guys like that don't get enough shine. Everything goes to LeBron. Obviously, it's media driven. The NBA is a show. Don't everybody, kind of relax on some of that stuff. It's a show. Yeah. You're putting on the stage lights, and it's a product that they're putting out. Sometimes the competition doesn't matter, which is why LeBron's going to get all the hype, even though they have a worse record than our away record was. So nobody freak out about that. So continuing our topic on the Suns this year and the playoffs and everything going on, what are some of the matchups that you saw that are going to be coming up this year in the playoffs that you're intrigued by, you're curious about? I know we touched on Luka before we started recording and him getting injured. Yeah. Any thoughts on any playoff matchups, Jaylz?
Minnesota and Memphis. I think.
Ooh, I got my thoughts. You tell me why.
I just think it's gonna be fun to watch. I think that Memphis has it. Memphis has been a great team, but it's not gonna be 4 games. They're not going to be able to stop Cat like the Clippers did. They're not coached as well as the Clippers are. They don't have the personnel that the Clippers have. Like they almost have to put Adams on them, and I don't know that works like they want it to. D'Angelo Russell, another Lakers alumni, he's a problem. Anthony Edwards is a problem. John Morant's a problem. I just think it's going to be a scrappy, intense battle. Even if it is 4 games, I think it's going to be just 4 intense, like scrappy games.
Would that be your official prediction, 4-0?
No, I want to say 6. Memphis in 6.
Memphis in 6. I'm personally gonna go with Memphis in 4 after some of the shenanigans that I saw last night. And for everybody listening, we are recording on Wednesday, the day after the first play-in games, when Patrick Beverley was caught crying like he just won the championship. I have no problem with Minnesota celebrating. They haven't done anything in X amount of years. Anthony Edwards has never been there before. But Pat Bev, man,
That was intense.
that seemed not like the right moment to do that. And then I saw a tweet later in the night that said Pat Bev is going to be the most disappointed person when he finds out he didn't win the championship last night. I
Yeah.
was like, that sums it up perfectly. And I hate him. Phoenix Suns Nation hates him.
Yeah.
But going back on that series real quick, I'm looking down their roster. I mean, they can send Brandon Clark over or Jaren Jackson Jr. for sure to kind of help on Cat. I think we might see JJJ a little bit more on Cat. And I think he's a better defender than what Zubac has to offer.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about wing help, maybe Brandon Clark, maybe Kyle Anderson's, a.k.a. Slow-Mo. Looking up and down that, like, I don't see a lot of wing guys that can come and help.
They're going to put everybody on him. Cat
You have to, yeah.
Cat is he's soft, so it works if you get under his skin and like the Clippers did. Like that worked. That worked perfect. Not only did he play horrible, he fouled out like 7 minutes to go. So it can be done. And I mean, if Memphis watched that and they got some sort of plan to try and replicate it, because the Clippers weren't even really putting Zubac on him. Zubac would come over, and that would
They're putting Batum on him, actually.
Yeah, putting smaller guys on him to keep, because I feel like it was because he's such a 3-point threat. So they wanted people that they didn't need in the paint or near the basket, guarding him. Zubac to still do his rim protection thing. But that one intrigues me. The Jazz and Mavericks did. We'll see how many games Luka has to miss. It sounds like it's gonna be at least a couple.
I was listening to Utah Jazz radio, sports radio, when I was driving to work today. They had on somebody from the Dallas Press or whatever the newspaper is out there, but he said he's probably going to miss one. Wouldn't be surprised if they miss 2 because they play on Saturday and then Monday. So if you're Dallas, man, and you go down 0-2, even if you're getting Luka back and going to Salt Lake City, that doesn't spell good things. Now, it's the Jazz. Yeah. They could be up 3-0 and blow this. We all know that. Yeah. So how do you think that shakes out with Luka potentially being out 1 or 2 games?
If Luka misses 2 games, and the first 2 are in Dallas?
First 2 are in Dallas as the 4 seed.
I mean, weird stuff happens. Like if they squeak one out somehow without him, I don't know.
Right.
But if they go to Utah down 2 games, that's a 5-game series, with or without Luka.
I completely agree. If they squeak one out, Dallas,
or
it's 1-1.
Yeah, if Luka comes back for game 2, or they squeak one out just off, sheer luck or whatever, then it's a different story. Like if it's tied and he comes back, or he comes back and ties it at 1-1, they just have to sneak one out in Utah.
I completely agree.
Yeah, which Utah has shown they will let people do. So
yeah, it's awesome. We loved it. We loved it.
I just bet.
Going on the Eastern Conference right now, you got the Raptors and Sixers. You got the Nets and the Celtics, Bulls and Bucks. Still TBD on the Heat and the Suns, the top teams who we're going to play. What about those matchups intrigue you? Anything stand out in particular?
Nets and Celtics is going to be fun to watch.
Yep.
I wish the Bulls wouldn't have got the Bucks in the first round.
Well, suck less.
Yeah. Lonzo Ball's been out all year. They really went downhill. It'd be interesting to see who plays the Heat.
I think it's going to be the Hawks. I think the Hawks beat the Cavs, but Darius Garland went off last night, so I don't know.
Yeah, I was hoping it would be the Hornets, but it doesn't look. I mean, I think they'd have lost to the Heat, but I thought that'd be. I mean, I like LaMelo, so I thought that'd be fun to watch at least. I like Trey too, but not as much.
I like LaMelo way more than Trey, and I never thought I'd say that on air.
Yeah, same. I mean, I don't know about the on-air part, but I like him way more than Trey. Trey took me a while to appreciate. But yeah, I mean the Hawks and Heat that would be interesting too, but mainly Brooklyn and Boston. Kyrie's going on a revenge tour against his old teams. It looks like so.
And Tatum is arguably at the pinnacle of his career right now and how he's playing too. And their defense has been absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't like the Celtics because of just my Lakers connections over the years, Kobe and whatnot. But I have a Jason Tatum hat. It says Jason Tatum like in Celtics writing. So
there you go.
Celtics hat. It's a Jason Tatum hat. I like him a lot.
Future Phoenix Sun right there.
You know, I'll like him when he's there too. It'll be player mobility. It makes things interesting. Yeah, the East, the Bucks and Bulls will be interesting too. DeMar's a monster. Zach LaVine's underrated sometimes, and you know I think that'll be fun too. But mostly just Brooklyn and Boston, and then the Western Conference. It'll be interesting to see who plays the Suns. Who do you think they're going to get?
My gut tells me the Clippers. I mean, I thought the Clippers were going to beat the T-Wolves last night, but then as I'm watching that game, I kind of realize I understand that the Clippers haven't all been together all year. I mean, Norman Powell and Paul George have played together a total of like 4, 5, 6 games, something like that. So Norman Powell got injured almost right away, and then he comes back at the end of the year. He hadn't played with some of the guys as well, so they just haven't had the time to come together and do anything cohesively. So it makes sense that in a big game, playoff implications on the line, that they were the ones that floundered as opposed to the team that has been playing together. May not be better, but they've been playing together, which matters. And, you know, home court didn't hurt.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, I want to say the Clippers, but I could absolutely see either one of DeJounte Murray or CJ McCollum going off in this game and having that carry over to Friday's matchup. I could absolutely see that. But the Clippers do have a home court advantage in that game for what it's worth.
Yeah, it's in LA. If the Pelicans win, I think, like if they beat the Spurs, I think the Clippers almost definitely will be playing the Suns. But Brandon Ingram seems to struggle when he plays in LA just from – I mean, but they did sweep the Lakers this year, so like maybe he's gotten over that a little bit, but he's the reason I'm a Pelicans fan or like follow him as close as I do. But he's also been out the last like 4 or 5 – like tonight's his first game back. And
that's what I was just trying to look up. Is he officially playing?
They showed him warming up earlier. And they've been talking about like once they, which was only like on the last game or second to last game, once they clinched like the playing game was going to be in New Orleans, they just didn't bring him back just so he could rest more before the playing game. So that's been, I've not seen anything that says Brandon Ingram is playing, but that's what everything's been saying is that he's just resting till the playing game.
Only official injury report. The only one on the list is Dougie McBuckets of San Antonio.
Oh, okay.
So that is the only injury that I see on here as of right now.
Yeah. So I mean Zion, he's not playing, but
who? Never heard of him.
Right. He broke all Shaq's records and then got fat. I don't know what.
Never heard of him before. You touched on it just for a quick second, and I want to go back before I ask you who you think is going to win the championship this year. But who do you think is a better player, Devin Booker, Donovan Mitchell, or Jason Tatum, or Zach LaVine?
Zach LaVine's gotten a lot better, but I don't think he's quite. Who was the first one? Donovan Mitchell, Devin
Book,
Booker, Jason
Book,
Tatum.
Mitchell, Tatum, Levine. This
It's
has also been an ongoing discussion for about 3 seasons
it's
in
Tatum,
Phoenix Nation.
it's Tatum or Booker. They're more complete. I think Booker's probably the best defensively because of Chris Paul these last couple of years. It would seem
Sure.
because it was. I mean, probably better than me. It seemed kind of out of nowhere that he mattered on defense all of a sudden. Um, but Tatum, I think is the best offensively. Um, but Booker's defense might make him the best of the.
Because if you're talking about Jason Tatum's offensive game and Book's offensive game, I mean, you're talking about 1A, 1B here. It's
Right,
not like there's a significant drop off either. So I
right,
completely agree with you. I'm a little biased on that, honestly.
sure,
Before leading up to last year,
yeah.
maybe even last year to some degree, I would have said Tatum,
Mhm.
but now I'm for sure it's Booker, no contest. And any conversation with Donovan Mitchell and Devin Booker is laughable to me.
Mm. I don't know if it's quite laughable, but he's third for sure.
So
Wait,
back
hold
to this year's,
on. Do
huh?
people really put Zach LaVine in that group? Is that really
Oh,
part?
until this year, absolutely. That was a thing. Levine is way better than Booker. I guarantee you, there's people on there now that are probably trolling or stan accounts that just have
Yeah,
Zach Levine's cute little picture or something
yeah.
as
Zach,
their picture. But
and I like Zach LaVine. I'm not trying to be like anti Zach LaVine, but he's mm, he's just not I don't think he's in the same category. I mean, I'm kind of biased about it because I personally would put Brandon Ingram higher than most people would. But he's not. He doesn't have the like killer that
sure.
Tatum and Booker have. But like skill wise, I think he's right there with them. And Tatum's a Celtic, so like I said before, like I'm gonna give the nod probably to anybody else first. But um, yeah, I can't believe Zach LaVine is in that conversation. I like it. He's got too many. He's got too many dunk championships though. Aaron Gordon should have one. I just want to say
Facts.
big
Big
fact.
facts.
Yeah.
That's another podcast, though.
No, whole
Uh,
different.
Before we get out of here, I got one more good topic I want to touch on for a handful of minutes, but we need your official prediction, Jails.
Oh,
Who is going to win the 2022 NBA championship? And if you want to throw out an East and a Western Conference championship, by all means.
Um, I think the Suns are going to make it to the finals again, but I don't. I want to say Brooklyn. I want to say Brooklyn and Phoenix, but Brooklyn's scaring me. But now that Kyrie can play every game, unless they have to play in Canada for some reason, uh, they're just really good and they're better defensively than I thought. Drummond is playing like Drummond again, which maybe if you're not a Pistons fan, that doesn't register with you, but he's,
We're Suns fans. We know what Andre Drummond did with the Lakers last year.
right, which was not a good sample of what he actually does. Uh, I couldn't believe it. I was so hyped the Lakers got Drummond, and then he was just, I don't know why they got him. I don't know what. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Uh, Patty Mill, like they just have so many. Seth Curry, like I can't believe all the stuff they got for Harden. Simmons plays. Just his defense. Like if he doesn't shoot the ball one time, it's probably better for everyone. But just his defense and his playmaking, it's gonna be huge. Adding to a team that already is pretty good playmaking. So I would say Phoenix and Brooklyn. I don't know. Who takes it, but it'll be Nash against the Suns. That'll be wild. Yeah.
That all would hinge on how do you guard Kevin Durant. Fortunately for us, we have someone by the name of Mikal Bridges, probably one of the only people that can actually block a Kevin Durant jump shot, which obviously is very important. But we also have the matchup zone to be able to do some things. I've
Yeah.
always felt like watching KD and the Nets over there, like when they truly needed a bucket, they would just go ISO and call it a day.
Mm.
I haven't seen Steve Nash out coach a single person.
Mm-mm.
And so if you're riding on that, I get it. And that is an argument to be had and to be heard because of Kevin Durant and Kyrie. I get it. I would have a hard time. Biasness, obviously, take that with a grain of salt for what you will.
Right.
Going with a team that has this organic chemistry about them and a true team that's all together and about each other with that organic chemistry being that true X factor. And that's hard to beat as well. And the Suns would have home court advantage. Not that it would matter at that point, because if the Nets got to that point, there's 3 straight series they're on the road. But
Yeah.
that's my personal opinion. But Kevin Durant and Kyrie would arguably be the best 2 players in that series.
Yeah. No, I think they would. Chris Paul though. Chris Paul. He's like if Patrick Beverly actually helped you. You know what I mean? Like he's got that, like that same heart and that same whatever, but he's like mature and like can apply it to like your game. You know what I mean? Whereas Patrick Beverly gets under your skin too, but he just does it by being,
Yeah.
it's that same type of thing. It's actual like heart and like leadership and just like last year he was just amazing to watch. Like the whole team was. And being a more of a player fan these days, like that's what's crazy about the playoffs is like you can just get excited about like every matchup. Maybe you don't because there's not players you like in whichever one, but like so excited to watch the Suns play whoever they play because it's going to be good basketball, and Brooklyn, like just to see who gets it. Could be anyone, honestly. Like there's a couple teams probably that's not true about, but like there are 4 or 5 teams on each side that could make it to the finals this year.
Absolutely. And then it just depends on how everything plays out. I mean, who knows what happens with the Nets if Harden doesn't hurt his hamstring, or if Booker doesn't hurt his hamstring in game 3 of the finals, or if Chris Paul doesn't hurt his arm. Like you could say that if for every single seasons, but that is going to be like the ultimate X factor too.
Yeah, if Kevin Durant's foot wasn't on the line, they'd have been in the finals. That would have been a game winner instead of an overtime forcer. But that's, to your point, like it just depends,
Amari Stoudemire doesn't walk off the bench in 2006, we could have beaten the Spurs then.
Yeah.
But we could go back probably over and over and over for every season.
Oh,
But we're not going to do that here. Briefly, we kind of already touched on it about your fandom versus my fandom, just how it differentiates. And, there's a lot of Stan accounts out there. Stan is basically just a fan of somebody. And the word fan can also be misconstrued as fanatic, which is what a lot of Phoenix Suns fans are fanatics, for better or for worse. Some people have the level head about them. I mean, you and I are a little older. We're starting to become old heads now. So we can kind of see, the long road and enjoying the ride, just like our good friend John Boyda, when he came on last night, expanded on that just a little bit. Some people are very close-minded. It's one and done, go. I already said on the podcast last night, I don't feel like this Phoenix Suns team was a championship or bust, because it's not like the Last Dance where we were told this is it, no one's coming back next year. There's not Devin Booker on a 1-year contract, or we know Chris Paul is on his retirement tour. So I never fully got that. I understood why you would say that, but I never fully got behind that motion. So what I'm trying to get to is fandom comes out in different ways, for better or for worse. Again, sometimes it's the fanatical side. Sometimes it's the, oh, whatever, I'm going to go have a drink, go sport, that kind of side.
Go teams.
You 100%, as long as I've known you, you were always about the player. You were always about AI, Kobe, T-Mac, whoever the player was that was just, really good at the time. And you supported generational type of talents. It's not like you went out there and supported a Larry Hughes, unless you were kicking my ass in 2K back in the day with Larry Hughes.
He was
Ridiculous Jordan power in 2K5 or 6 or whatever that was we played. Stupid, just like Gerald Green in 2014. Made absolutely no sense.
Yeah.
But you were always about the generational type of players, and you would follow them. AI from the Sixers to the Nuggets, his brief stint in Memphis and so forth, and all that stuff. A part of the top 75, by the way. I thought about you when he came out. I'm sure that was pretty awesome for you to see.
Loved it.
But then you're also a huge University of Michigan fan, which I am too. That's my second favorite team. Go Blue all the way. I loved watching their run this year. We'll see if Aiden Hutchinson gets drafted as the top pick or a top 5 pick or something like that. That's going to be awesome to see for Michigan. So you're kind of both sides of it. For me, it's like, once Robert Ory threw the towel at Danny Ainge's face and he got traded, it was F Robert Ory. And then, all the stuff happened with him. If you're not on my team, you're against me. Like, I have a hard time rooting for players after they leave. Now, I had some soft spots. Like, I loved Bo Outlaw when he was with the Suns. He was a fan favorite, guy that gives hustle, even though we weren't any good. When he got traded away, I still kind of rooted for him. But, Dan Marley, the typical or the pinnacle of Arizona or the Phoenix Suns basketball fandom was a guy like Dan Marley. We have the Dan Marley Hustle Award named after him, for Christ's sake. Everybody's dog was named Marley in Phoenix in the 90s. He gets traded to the Cavs. You're not on my team anymore. I'm sorry. Like, I hope you do well, but you're not on my team. That's where I come from as my fan. I can't root for Remy Martin, who just won a national championship in Kansas because he couldn't do it for Arizona State. Good job. I wish you well, but that's me. So talk about your fandom and how you were a team guy growing up, like Lions and Pistons being in Michigan, but now you kind of diverted to being a fan of players. I'm curious how that all kind of happened for you.
Well, you kind of already said it. It was Iverson. As a Pistons fan, I got into the Sonics because I just wanted to root against the Bulls. But other than that, I was just like full on Pistons until saw Iverson play for Georgetown, actually, I think against Michigan, which is why I was watching the game. I can't remember for sure. But I saw Iverson in Georgetown, started following him. He went to the Sixers, and over the first, I think he was there till 08. He was there like 12 years. He got drafted in 96. Became this huge Sixers fan for a decade. Hated the Lakers. Hated, it was just the Sixers and Pistons at that point. Like, they just became a second team because I liked Iverson so much. But then when Iverson got traded to the Nuggets, and I'm just, watching the Sixers without Allen Iverson, it just, like broke my, like I had to like
rebrand.
Yeah, like readdress how I handled it. 'Cause I've never had to do that before. Like Jordan was, I wasn't a Jordan fan, and he did come back for the Wizards, but like back in the day, and even like Iverson's generation, like you played with like a team like Kobe, played with the Lakers 20 years, Dirk 21 years with the Mavs. Wade left, but came back and finished with the Heat and did most of the stuff with the Heat. But then LeBron started this whole mobility thing, which is cool. But like back then, it didn't really cross your mind. I just thought he was gonna be a Sixer his whole career.
Right.
And so then after that, and then after after the Nuggets thing didn't work out, he was in Memphis for 3 games, and then he went to the Pistons after the Nuggets. And then that went horribly. They tried to bring him off the bench. He shaved his head. It was a crisis. And then, but after that, he was pretty much done. Like, he played those 3 games for Memphis, left for personal reasons, and then came back to retire with the Sixers. And it was just like,
didn't he have a short stint in China or something? Or am I
Turkey?
Something else? Turkey? That's what it was.
Mm-hmm. Forget when that was, like, chronologically. I think it was between Memphis and retiring with the Sixers. So I think he still wanted to come back, but nobody wanted to start him. So he went overseas, and then that was just terrible. So he came back and retired. But that's what started it. And then once he retired is when, or not retired, but once that like spiral kind of started happening is when like Shaq left, and I started like Kobe, because he's like battling like the same way Iverson kind of was with the Sixers, like carrying them.
Yeah.
And then
through the Jordan Farmar and Smush Parker years. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just kind of like, I'm just kind of a basketball fanatic at this point. Like, I'm just like, I could, we could sit here and talk about we could talk about that Boston Brooklyn series. We could talk about the Phoenix, Clipper, like whoever's going to be, like, I could talk about any of those because all of that interests me because I don't have a whole, like,
hand in the game, if you will.
A dog in the race. So, like, if the Pistons ever get good, like, that's, and this year was
Cade Cunningham's a stud, by the way. That kid's going to be a superstar.
Yeah, it's a promising year. And even a couple years ago when they made the playoffs, I rooted for them against the Bucks. I knew they weren't going to win, but, like, Blake Griffin came, had an all-NBA season, got us to the playoffs. Pistons fans, if there's any watching, like, put some respect on Blake Griffin's name. Everybody was mad at Blake Griffin. Like, he had an
wild shot.
He had an all-NBA season, and that's the only time we've been to the playoffs since, like, Chauncey left. Blake Griffin. He's should be coming off the bench now, like he is, but, like, at that time he was on all NBA.
He D'd up Giannis damn good last year in the playoffs. I mean, Giannis was trying to do his one-on-one stuff. I mean, he did it against Ayton, and he got a foul every single time. Did it against Blake Griffin, he couldn't do anything, which was very underrated in that series, by the way.
Yeah, he's a different player now, and he was a different player in Detroit. Like, he wasn't dunking. He had so many surgeries and came back and played and got us to the playoffs. And I don't remember if it was second team or third team, but he was all NBA the year that we made the playoffs. And I mean, nobody's done that since and hadn't done it before in like a decade at that point. So, I mean, but that's just
I'll give you that due. I'm not going to root for the guy. I never liked him much, but very fair point.
Yeah. That was the only time I liked it. I didn't really like, dunks were cool, dunk contest was cool, but, like, that's all I thought he was.
Yeah.
Into the Pistons, and I just have to pay attention, not usually in the playoffs because they're done by then.
Hey, there was a flock of Suns fans that wanted us to trade for Blake Griffin. We would have traded anybody to be semi-relevant to bring a guy like that in at the time. And what was that, 2016?
Sounds right.
Somewhere around there. Yeah, and we were dog water then. So I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. But the point I'm trying to make with this whole conversation is that there's different levels of fandom and fanatical tendencies definitely come out on every side of being a fan. So, Suns fans, when you're attacking people, Iverson Vlogs, not you, Jaylz. There's a follower named Iverson Vlogs, and he's he's a younger guy, and he goes down the rabbit hole, and everything is awful right now unless we win. So, which was 100% me when I was 18. Totally get it, but there's different sides to this, and there's different sides of fandom, and I've always thought it's interesting how people root for the UCLA Bruins, but then they're going to be Steelers fans. Maybe they're Mariners baseball fans, and they're going to watch Houston basketball or something, right? It's always intrigued me. And so I just wanted to bring you on to talk about your little fandom syndicate of teams and players that you have and who you follow. And I just always thought it was interesting. You're huge on the teams, but then go to college, it's all about University of Michigan. But that's where you're from. I'm from Arizona, obviously Arizona State fan. Right. So that totally makes sense. Before we get out of here, anything you want to touch on about the playoffs that we missed or any points? And just like that, since we've been talking, we're recording on Wednesday again. The Atlanta Hawks are up 101-75 with 2 minutes in the third quarter. That game is probably done. And this is going to air on Friday, so it's late. Obviously doesn't mean anything. But Jaylz, anything else that we've missed that you want to touch on?
I mean, not specifically. I could touch on anything. I could talk about basketball forever, but I'm just excited for the playoffs, see what happens, see how everything plays out. Like you said, could be some upsets, could be, just some good basketball, especially get to the second round, and it's usually all good games, like, every day.
Yeah.
And yes. I'm really excited for that. Like, it's my favorite thing about not being emotionally connected to many teams. Like, I can just, I'll have who I want or whatever, or who I think, but, like, it's just fun to watch the games and see how they play out. And like you said, it's kind of like a movie, like a story that's playing out, like you watch all year, just to see who gets there. Could be who you think, could not be.
Enjoy the ride, Suns fans.
Yeah.
Enjoy the ride. Enjoy the fact that we're here and in this position and being talked about as much as we are when it comes to Coach of the Year. Congratulations to Monty Williams, by the way, for winning it amongst his peers for a second year in a row. And enjoy being in the conversation for Depoy with Mikhail, All NBA with Chris and Book. Just enjoy that, Suns fans. Jay, go ahead and stay on. I'm going to go ahead and play the outro music. But Suns fans, He's on Fire podcast fans, again, thank you so much for tuning in to this specialty episode. Technically episode 61, but our first pre-recorded one, releasing on Friday. Hit the like button, subscribe, rate and review. We really appreciate it. And go Sonics. We'll go with that for this one. Go Sonics.
I like
He's
it.
on Fire podcast. We'll be back with you soon. Peace.
None of them can hang, running with the gang. No need to explain. I pull up then it's they cannot contain me moving through the lane. Every little setback, I step back and then it's none of them can hang, running with the gang. No need to explain. I pull up and it's they cannot contain me moving through the lane. Every little setback, I step back and then it's I gave them nuggets and knowledge. They tried to put nicks in my armor, but I've been mellow since college. Made this vixen a mama, and I'm still blazing trails out here amidst all the drama. I keep going.